And hello, everybody, and welcome to our weekly sports streaming talk show. It's called The Huddle every Tuesday at this time. I'm Jason Barr, sports director at KGUN 9, joined by our main news anchor, Pat Parris. As always, Pat, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm excited to talk a little basketball and see where we take it today.
Yeah, we're going to be joined by C.J. Holmes of The Athletic, or formerly of The Athletic. He covered Arizona Wildcats basketball, and then before. Well, CJ's not joining us just yet, but he's going to join us in a little bit. He covered Arizona athletics for The Athletic and now the Golden State Warriors reporter for the San Francisco Chronicle. So we'll talk a little Warriors with him. You see CJ's background there. Also played a little at Auburn, and CJ now joins us here live on The Huddle. CJ, thanks so much for coming in, finishing your workout or whatever you were doing there in San Francisco. Pat and myself here on The Huddle. How you doing today?
Gentlemen, it's been a while. It's good to see you both.
Yeah, longtime
Yeah, it's
viewers
great
know.
seeing you. Yeah,
Longtime
awesome.
viewers know that CJ did a little in the ring with us as we debated some sports topics. So I'll go first and then let Pat jump in here. CJ, first, I know you cover the Warriors. You were at the parade yesterday. What was that atmosphere like with the Golden State Warriors parade?
Oh, man, it was unbelievable. I actually got the opportunity to ride in Gary Payton II's float along with James Wiseman. And, just to be in that atmosphere, seeing legions and legions of Warriors fans filling the streets. The traffic was pretty crappy. But other than that, it was an unbelievable finish, for an unbelievable season by an unbelievable team.
Yeah, it certainly was. What was it like to just kind of get thrown into the middle of that season, CJ, as you become the beat writer for the Warriors and just pick up, this kind of dynasty of a team, and you get to watch them take it all the way?
Oh, man, it was definitely a whirlwind, and it all happened so fast. I was sitting at a 76ers game one night, and I got a DM from Christina Carl at the San Francisco Chronicle, who's now my boss, saying, "Hey, we're looking for a Warriors writer, by the way. Interested?" And I was like, "Yeah." And 2 to 3 weeks later, I had an offer on the table. Shortly after that, moved out to Oakland, California, where I am now, and they just threw me right in the fire. My first day on the job was February 22nd. 23rd, I was on the road to Portland. And the funny thing is, a lot of fans were giving me a lot of crap when I first got on the job. They're like, "You know what? We were winning until you got here, CJ." Because as soon as I got on the job, there was the injuries, the losing streaks. Clay's back, but Draymond's out. Then Steph goes out, and Draymond comes back, and a lot of misfortune for the Warriors down the stretch. But Jordan Poole was able to keep them afloat, secure that number three seed going into the playoffs. And the funny thing is, despite all the struggles the second half of the season presented for the Warriors, the common mindset in all these post-game news conferences were, just wait till we get healthy. We'll be fine. And sure enough, the Warriors got healthy at the right time, and I think they were a little more than fine.
Yeah, good timing for them to get healthy. Good timing for you, certainly, as well. Now, you were here in Tucson, and you covered Arizona basketball when you were with The Athletic before you moved out to Philadelphia, before you went to the Warriors. How much did you see of the Wildcats this past season, and did it a little surprise you that they made the great run to the Sweet 16, or at least I should say great regular season of 33-4 and making that run to the Sweet 16?
I watched a lot of Arizona basketball this season. It was hard not to. They're one of the most exciting teams in America. And the crazy thing is, it was, with the exception of one or two guys, it was essentially the same roster that Sean Miller had, the year prior. A lot of those guys he recruited. And, I wasn't surprised to see them have the success they had. It was just a matter of putting those guys in the right position to succeed. And, I think Sean Miller could have did that awesome, but Tommy Lloyd came in, did a great job with that group. But what surprises me the most about last year's Arizona team is the development of guys like Dalen Terry, Benedict Mathurin, Christian Coloco. Those guys took leaps last season, and now they're all on the NBA draft boards. So that's what happens when, hard work meets talent and strategy. The Wildcats had a great season. When I filled out my bracket, I picked them to win the national championship. So I loved it that much.
So did I. Yep.
I also picked Auburn to go to the Final Four, and that didn't work out very well either. But it was such a great season for Arizona basketball. Strong start for Tommy Lloyd. And, the program's in good hands, and it's only up from here.
C.J. Holmes also played basketball at Auburn. And C.J., you can appreciate certainly what can happen when it comes to tournament time. And, yeah, maybe Arizona didn't quite make it to the Final Four like we all had hoped. but it certainly awoken a lot of people's eyes to what this team and what Tommy Lloyd could make this team and maybe the future. He got $1 million raise after just one season. Your thoughts about Tommy Lloyd as a coach moving forward with Wildcats?
I think he's great. He brought over that Gonzaga mindset and the way they do things. I still stay in touch with a few of the guys on the team, and they have nothing but good things to say about him. And the on-court success speaks for itself. Arizona is one of the proud basketball programs in this country. And for the last couple of years, for one reason or another, blame the investigation, say whatever you want, but the program has been down in a way. And it's just good to see. I feel like college basketball is better when the Arizona Wildcats are elite. And Tommy Lloyd's been able to get them back to that status. And I don't think they're coming down anytime soon. I think the little pay bump he got this offseason was completely warranted. And I think the program's in great hands going forward.
All right, so let's talk NBA draft, CJ. Before we get to the Wildcats, Pat mentioned you played at Auburn, and we've got an Auburn player who might go number one, Jabari Smith. Do you see him going to Orlando on Thursday night? How do you see the number one spot playing out before we get to the Wildcats?
Let me try to take my Auburn biases aside for a second. It could go either way. I feel like this is a toss-up. There's no clear-cut number one prospect like maybe in years past. Heading into this year, the clear-cut favorite was Chet Holmgren. But this season, with Paolo Banchero having a strong year, Jabari Smith proving to be better than a lot of people thought, the Magic's decision at number one isn't as clear as it seems. Do I think Jabari goes number one on Thursday night? I do, because Auburn biases aside, I think he has a high ceiling. He's 6'10", can shoot the ball with range. He showed last year that he has a clutch gene. He's only one of the only freshmen in the country to have multiple 30-point games last year. The guy he's a stud. And the thing is, unlike Chet Holmgren, Jabari has a position. I think he'll eventually develop into a three, but he'll come into the league as a power forward. But I do think he'll eventually develop into a three. Where with Chet, you just don't know where to play him, and that's a big issue with him. Like, do you play him at center? Do you play him on the wing? Do you play him at power forward? Right now you might have to play him on the wing because his body hasn't developed into that NBA frame yet. And I think Jabari has a higher upside than Paolo Banchero. I think Paolo Banchero is ready to play now. He's a nice physical frame, good skill set. You can kind of insert him, he'll be productive immediately. But in terms of longevity and upside, I think Jabari Smith. Now, do I want Jabari to go to the Magic? No, that's where careers go to die. If I had it my way, I hope he would follow three, team him up with Jalen Green in Houston, and I think that'd be a dynamic duo for that franchise for years to come. But I do think that with no clear-cut number one pick, I do think you get the highest upside with Jabari Smith. And because of those reasonings, I think the Orlando Magic select him first overall on Thursday night.
Well, you get the number one pick because for a reason, right? And unfortunately for him, it's Orlando Magic this year. Let's talk about the Wildcats. And when you're talking lottery picks, you have to talk Ben Mathurin and what a player and what a talent. I think we all saw it this past season, and we just saw that draft stock rise and rise and rise. We knew he was probably going to be a lottery pick, but he's really going to be a high pick. Some have him as high as 5th, I think, in the draft.
Watching Ben this past season, I was kicking myself all year long. Remember when I was at The Athletic? When he first signed with the Wildcats, I did a little profile of him coming out of the NBA Basketball Academy. And I said that this guy is going to be a project. He probably won't be at his best until he's at least, a junior or a senior. And boy, was I wrong. I think that Benedict Mathurin's the full package. And even after his successful season last year at the Wildcats, I think he's still criminally underrated. Like, this guy I think he's great. I mean, he has a tight handle. He has an NBA-ready finishing package around the rim. He can take off from anywhere on the court, or at least inside the paint and throw that thing down. He's everything you want. What you see with the way the NBA is going with explosive athletes on the perimeter, I think Ben fits that mold perfectly. Not to mention he has untapped potential on the defensive end of the court. I do think he'll probably go somewhere between – like I said, I think he's underrated, but I do think he goes somewhere between 12 and 15 on draft night.
Whoa, CJ, latest is 5 to Detroit. He's been moving up.
Now, I haven't seen that one. I'm still seeing Jaden Ivey to Detroit. But if he is moving up, great, because like I agree.
Every single day he keeps creeping up. I think people are seeing what we saw, and he had that NBA look when he first came here, but had a ways to go. And it's funny, he said to Tommy Lloyd, "I've got a 2-year plan," and Tommy Lloyd said, "Great, 2 years of you will do great." And he said, "No. 1 year's already in the books." No, I want 2 years, but he's just kind of looked the NBA part. He was a little inconsistent last year, and there's been times where he wasn't great this past year, but he's got aesthetically pleasing. He's just got such a fantastic game.
He can shoot the 3-ball.
Yeah. So we'll see. He just kind of keeps creeping up. But you don't have him going that high. So we'll see. Look, there's lots of surprises on draft day. So anyway, all right. So the next Wildcat would be Dalen Terry. Here's somebody, CJ, who wasn't sure whether or not he was going to stay in the draft. He declared, but had the option to come back. Worked out for NBA teams. Evidently, he liked what he heard, because now we're seeing him be a late first rounder. Here's a guy, CJ, who doesn't score a lot of points, but does everything. You don't need every single guy on your team to score a ton of points, and he does everything else so well. What's your take on Dalen Terry and why he's been moving up in the draft charts?
I think Dalen's a fantastic prospect, and obviously his decision to keep his name in the draft when he was testing waters, it obviously indicates that he's hearing good things from NBA scouts, and I don't see any reason why he wouldn't. One thing about Dalen Terry I love is that he loves to bring people together, right? When he first signed with Arizona, he said, I'm gonna go grab the best players I can to come play with me. He's a big team guy, a big glue guy, wants to bring guys together. And I think that that's going to be an asset at the NBA level in terms of intangibles. But when I think of Dalen Terry as a prospect, as someone who covers the Golden State Warriors, in a way, he's Draymond Green in a guard's body, right? He's not going to score a lot of points, right? But he's going to do everything else. He's going to get you assists. He's a big guard who can run the offense. You can play him as a small ball four in situations if you want. He's going to lock down at the defensive end of the court, right? He does a little bit of everything. He's like a Swiss Army knife. And because of that, I think that he's going to have a long future. He's going to have a long career in the NBA simply because he can help a team win in so many ways.
It's funny you say that, because I actually had a similar thought, except he's not as much of a pest. I don't mean that. I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that in a way to kind of get under the team's skin a little bit. He doesn't have that aspect of a Draymond Green, but he has, like you said, a bunch of others, Pat.
But like best case scenario, I think best case scenario, I think Dalen Terry can be a low number triple-double threat every night in the league. When he eventually develops into what he's going to be.
And that's what when Jason and I talk, I say, 2-3 years from now, we might look at Dalen Terry and say, oh, he's starting to arrive, but it could take a few years before we really see him arrive. Let's talk Christian Koloko. And when you talk Christian Koloko, you have to give the accolades to that University of Arizona coaching staff, right? To see his game go from where it was.
And Pat, the strength and conditioning staff.
You're right. And I was trying to include that in it. It's the entire coaching staff, including strength and conditioning. He has gone from this skinny, tall kid, gangly kid to a real athletic-looking physical center in college basketball. How will that translate, and where will he go, do you think?
I remember my year covering the Cats. They were begging Christian Koloko to dunk the daggone basketball. Now he dunks everything, right? And like you said, it's a testament to Arizona's strength and conditioning staff and player development staff. This is a guy who's developed into a pretty solid center now, pretty solid center prospect. He came in with a wiry frame. He's filled out a little bit now. His footwork has improved on the lower block. And like I said, he knows how to finish and what to do around the basket. Not to mention at the defensive end of the court, he's swatting everything, right? So with that said, he's still a little bit of a project. I don't think he comes into the NBA from day one. He steps into a starting role as like maybe a Benedict Mathurin would, depending on where he goes. But he's a little bit of a project, but I do think that he can be a pretty good rotational piece for a team as early as his rookie season. And, years down the road, maybe he can develop into that NBA starting center. But where does he go? I'm thinking of a team like the Warriors at 28. I think that's about his range, late first round, early seconds, when we can see Christian Koloko come off the board. And you think of the Warriors in particular, Kevon Looney emerged this postseason as a force on the glass. James Wiseman's trying to get healthy, waiting in the wings. But overall, this team lacks size. And adding a guy like Christian Koloko, a project, a guy who, you don't need to play big minutes right away. A guy you can maybe even stash in the G League for a couple of years and let him develop until some of the Warriors they have a lot of depth on the roster, a lot of veterans, until that stuff kind of figures itself out. I think he could be a good fit in Golden State, and Lord knows that that team has a great player development staff.
Yeah. What's your take on the Wildcats incoming recruiting class? We don't really see a lot of McDonald's All-Americans, but then we're talking about here Matherin and Terry and Coloco, and those guys were McDonald's All-Americans, and certainly Tommy Lloyd, Henri Visar, and a couple of other guys he's got, and he knows how to get these top international players. What's your take on the Wildcats class coming in, and does that mean with these three guys leaving, they have to take a step back next season, or not necessarily?
I gotta be honest with you guys. I don't know much about Arizona's incoming recruiting class, but knowing Tommy Lloyd, he gets guys that fit the program and fit the culture, right? A big thing about last year's Arizona team is that guys were so unselfish, right? You didn't see a lot of guys bickering for playing times or thinking they should be playing a larger role than they should. They're able to be one complete unit together, and whoever's coming in, if they fit that mold, then I think everything's gonna be just fun.
Tell me what it was like real quick with Steve Kerr and kind of getting in the middle of a season. That Steve Kerr, we all have this thought about Steve Kerr, but to be the beat writer and jump in that late in the season, and as you mentioned, things weren't going all that well. How was your relationship with Steve?
I think it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Me and Steve kind of had some past history. When I was covering the Arizona Wildcats, Arizona, that Nika Manning and Josh Green Zignaji team, they played St. John's at Chase Center that year, earlier in the pandemic, year before the pandemic hit at the Pac-12 tournament. But I stayed for Warriors practice the next day, and I was able to get a one-on-one with Steve Kerr and Bruce Frazier, two Wildcats, as you guys know. And so when I first came back to the beat, it's like, oh, I remember you. All right, you're all right. But throughout the year, it's great. Sometime before news conferences, but hey, CJ, how you doing? He's always speaking, always friendly. If I shoot him a text or got any questions, he'll get back to me. Usually in a pretty timely manner. And so overall, he's seems like he's a great guy to coach. The things that you guys see on television is exactly what we're seeing in person. I mean, he's a class act. Stands up for gun violence at any chance he gets. And just overall, it's been a good relationship with Steve. Thankful to get the cover coach like that, and just hoping the relationship improves going forward.
Well, that was my next question, and we're not going to debate the whole gun violence here topic because people don't want their politics with sports. But my question was to that topic: were you in the room that day when he gave that rant, and what was that atmosphere like, and what was the feeling like in the room when he did it that day?
I was there, and you could hear a pin drop. When he walked out, you can hear a pin drop, complete silence, and it kind of didn't even make sense. Playing a basketball game that day, it just felt like that day that things were bigger than sport.
Because you were in Texas, for everybody who doesn't remember, that was,
Western Conference Finals,
a couple hundred miles away from where it happened.
It was just terrible. It was just a terrible feeling in there, to be completely honest. But you got to commend someone like Kerr to be able to use his platform and try to enact some change in this country, and he's not going to stop anytime soon. That's just who he is.
Exactly right, and that is who he is, and he's also, as you mentioned, a Wildcat through and through, and it's got to be, it's got to be fun to be able to cover him and see that fourth championship in 8 years. That's a remarkable thing. Did you kind of look back and say, "Wow, I'm really covering part of history"? Every once in a while, we get one of those times where we're thinking we're covering part of history, and you really are.
Yeah, absolutely. The Warriors have been able to do over the past 8 years is ridiculous. I mean, the numbers are right there. 50% of the time over the last 8 years, they've won an NBA championship. And that's ridiculous. And the crazy thing is they have accomplished something that few NBA teams can do, and that's win now and develop for the future. Not only are Stephen Curry's still in his prime. Klay Thompson, I think he's proven, although he's been inconsistent, I think he's proven he has, plenty more left in the tank. And Draymond, he is showing some signs of decline, but as long as he's on the court, and I feel like as long as Steph and Klay are on the court, he's going to be on the court too. So as long as they keep that dynastic trio together, and then keep developing your James Wisemans, your Moses Moody's, you got Jordan Poole who exploded this year, and he's about to get paid. I think the Warriors are, they won it this year. I think they're built to be good for a very long time.
Actually, I do have one more. Andre Iguodala, does he retire?
I feel like he should. I feel like you should.
Because they were saying, oh, he's not playing because he's banged up, and I wonder how much that was true, what percent of that was true, and what percent of it was, as you may feel.
He's 39 years old. Well,
Yeah.
how much of it is that? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, Andre. When we talk about decline, he's definitely slowed down a bit. But here, despite the fact that he was barely on the court this season, the consensus of every player and coach you talk to is how invaluable he is to that locker room. And the things he brings to the table from that standpoint in terms of mentoring the younger guys and relationships.
Well, we saw him coaching on the bench during the NBA Finals, yeah.
So yeah, so I was saying, maybe that's an option. Maybe there's, you have Leandro Barbosa, Sean Livingston, Zaja Pachulia. Those guys are still around the program, still around the franchise. So, if Iggy does decide to call it quits this offseason, I wouldn't be shocked if the Warriors can find some type of role within the organization for him to stay around the team because he means that much to this franchise's success.
I think he wants to go into Silicon Valley, but I think his timing is not very good right now. That's what I think. Hey, that's it for me, Pat. Anything else for CJ?
No, it was a great catching up with us, CJ. We
sure.
Always appreciated the time that you spent doing things with us at Keg on 9, and we've been following you, and we wish you nothing but success in the future.
Hey, I appreciate you guys having me on. Let's do this again soon, all right?
All right, good stuff, right. CJ. Thanks so much for a couple of minutes.
Thanks for having me.
All right, that's CJ Holmes of the the San Francisco Chronicle now.
Well, he was with the Athletic for so long.
Here in Tucson, and then he covered the Big Five in Philadelphia. So with the San Francisco Chronicle now. I was curious where he was living because you hear all these stories about the housing in San Francisco, but I wasn't going to ask. And then he said he was in Oakland. So I
live in Oakland. It's a little more reasonable.
That's right. So great timing. Always good to cover a championship. And you had it. You had the Warriors. I forget how many games you had. But I think I had the Celtics in 6. I think you had the Warriors.
I don't think I ever said games. I just said I thought the Warriors would win. But
just 6, too many turnovers by the Celtics in that series.
Yeah, and, it was you got to score the basketball and you can't turn it over. And they didn't do much of either in those last couple games.
All right, so it's hockey time now. We've got the NHL Finals on KGUN 9 on our air.
You want to talk Gronk real quick?
Yeah, let's do that.
Gronk real quick. Yeah. This time I think it sticks. That's my gut.
Well, I do too, because part of him coming back was to join his buddy, his BFF Tom Brady. Tom Brady's not going to another team in another year. He's 33. He has done very well financially. Apparently, Gronkowski has not spent any of his NFL salary and only lived off his endorsements, or vice versa. He's only lived, of his 2 incomes, he's only lived off of 1, which is a great strategy if you can afford to do it, right?
Terrific strategy.
And so not only that, with all the extracurricular stuff and his NFL pension, doesn't sound like he needs the money. His body's still in decent shape, even though he's taking a beating. So I can understand the move. I thought he'd play 1 more year with Brady, but I just don't think he needs to. And now it's kind of, going to be, to me, managing Rob Gronkowski, and what type of celebrity is he going to be? Is he going to be a WWE type of celebrity? Is he going to be somebody who's going to be a little bit more on some of the mainstream shows that you might see? I think now, he's got a decision to make of, which direction he wants to go in his career outside of basketball. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that Gronk is unique, and that Gronk, just the name Gronk, is a brand in itself. There aren't many NFL players that retire and have a brand like that. Sure, there are superstar players. They're not always tight ends, though, Jason. They're usually quarterbacks, right? That get all the, that have the name recognition. But he has the name recognition. Now he's got that party boy, wild child mentality with his roughhousing brothers and things. So we'll see how that plays out. He's got a Sports Illustrated swimsuit model girlfriend, and so he's going to be at all the big parties in South Beach and in Hollywood, and so he's got that going for him. But you're right. It's really, how is he going to manage that brand? How is he going to grow that brand? And we'll see. There's a lot out there for him for sure.
Yeah. All right. So what a fantastic career. Definitely a first ballot Hall of Famer, in my opinion. And one of the best, if not the best, tight end to ever play. Not just
got a question here.
Not just in his pass catching, but his blocking as well. Oh yeah, one question for you. Do you think Gronk will come back and do anything? I think occasionally. He doesn't live around the corner. He lives in Florida. I forget if it's Miami or Tampa.
I think he
But
lives in Tampa. Yeah, I think he lives in Tampa because of playing there right
right.
now. But he maybe has a place in both places. I don't
I
know.
want to say he has another home in Miami. I'm
Could
not
be.
100% sure. But it's not around the corner. You saw him back last year for the spring game. I think
Right.
the answer to your question, Wally, Wildcat, would be occasionally, once a year maybe. But I don't think we're going to see any more than that, just based on the amount of things that he has going on extracurricular,
Yep.
like with the Nickelodeon Awards, which is why he missed the spring game. And that's what I was getting at before. Is he going to be at WWE things or Nickelodeon things, or is he the type who can navigate and do both? But I think the shorter answer to your question is once in a while, but not very often would be my guess, Pat.
Yeah, and maybe it'll be those special times. You bring him back, and as long as Jed Fish is the head coach at the University of Arizona, there's a connection there, and so he'll get him to do things. Teddy Bruschi and him. If Teddy Bruschi were to ask him to come back with him to do something at the U of A, I'm sure he would do it as well, as long as his schedule allows. But you're right. How busy is he going to be? Is Nickelodeon going to get in the way? Is he going to be doing color commentary on one of the networks at some point too? He dabbled in that a little bit during his first retirement. We'll see if he does it in the second retirement.
Yeah. All right. Well, that does it for the Huddle for this week. We thank C.J. Holmes again for joining us and talking some basketball and NBA draft and some Warriors. And for Pat Parris, I'm Jason Barr. Thanks everybody for watching. And we'll be back here for the next 2 weeks at this time. And then I think the show is going to go on a little July vacation, but we'll definitely be here with you for the next couple of weeks. So come back next Tuesday at this time on KGUN 9's, all the streaming platforms. This has been the Huddle. For Pat Parris, I'm Jason Barr. Have a great Tuesday. And for those listening later in the week, the rest of your week, everybody, take care.